if you're not good at asking people for money, which I can't imagine anyone in this world is not good at that, but you're going to be really, you're going to be crippled on the buyer side because you're just going to, and there are agents that make their living just going, they feel more comfortable working with buyers and they're like, oh, I like working with buyers. It's because they are not good at sitting down with somebody, demonstrating value and commanding to get paid. So big picture is that you just need to have this mindset. I'm just going to list buyers, and if you don't have a buyer process, think of like Aaron, who's the well, I'll ask you, Aaron. So, or I'll even give my own example. The listing process that we have from the moment we generate a lead to the call to booking the consultation to sending out a pre-list packet to sending brownies to the listing packet, the process at the home. Every step is choreographed. We give our agents very little flexibility for the most part on how to run a listing consultation that we know will give us as team leaders the conversion rates that we want. Compare that, like the very best listing process imaginable, the Ritz-Carlton of a listing process. Compare that to how you run your buyer business. And if you don't have any kind of buyer process or buyer presentation or buyer packets or buyer consultation or you don't meet with buyers before you show them homes, then you have the awesome part about this is you have 3.5, 4 months until this is going to be in play here. Some MLSs, some agents are already going out and running with this and putting zeros in the MLS. So you definitely have some of that. So you need to get after this pretty quickly. I will say, yeah, so to Gloria's question, on our Tuesday, we're actually going to be going through this on Tuesday, April 9th on our production mastermind. So you guys are all in Real Estate B School powered by EXP, obviously, because Aaron, we're business partners. On that call, it's productionmastermind.com. It's 12 p.m. Eastern on April 9th. We're going to do an update on the settlement, but we're also going to be going through the exact scripts you'll use on the buyer side, and we're going to give you a copy of the presentation that you can edit and you can run with. But it just comes down to that. We never took out a buyer. We never used the home as leverage to start a relationship with a buyer. So a lot of agents will just take a sign call and they'll meet the buyer at the home. That goes away now. Now we actually have to show enough value to get them to meet with us before we show them the property. We can't dangle opening the door out there as leverage to get in front of a buyer. And I haven't done that in my whole career. So I was like super lucky. My first coach in the business, Craig Proctor, taught me how to present to buyers, sign them to a loyalty agreement before I showed a single home. So that's going to be how the business changes. If you have no collateral on the buyer side, like you don't have a buyer guide or a buyer roadmap or a buyer presentation, we'll be giving you all of those. Well, you guys have access to them now, actually, through your Real Estate B School toolbox, but we'll be walking through them on April 9th. And that's it. I wish it was more complicated than that, but you have to be able to present to a buyer and confidently tell them, yeah, you're looking in the $600,000 range, and I charge 3% plus a $935 transaction fee due at closing. And go ahead and sign here. If you come across a FSBO, if you come across new construction, here are my, you have your process and you stick to it. I actually charge 3.5% to buyers in a transaction fee my first year in the business. And there was either a deficiency that the seller was willing to pay. There was always a deficiency, and either the seller paid it or the buyer paid it. But I got paid that, anywhere from 0.5% to 1% deficiency. And I just had a form that when I was writing an offer with a buyer, we would go through all the particulars of the offer, and then we would come down to commissions, and I would know if there's a deficiency or not, and we would write that deficiency in there. Actually, I'm gonna show you that one. this one. So you guys will need tactical, like actual tools. I don't think I can. Let me see if I can share my screen. So it's a really easy. So this is something I would have when I was working with buyers, and when we get ready to offer on a property, we just walk through this. What's the offer price, the address, earnest money, additional, what's our due diligence date, what kind of closing date do you want, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, any personal property in the home that you guys like, what kind of loan are we going to be putting together? Mr. And Mrs. Buyer, on this property, they're offering 2.5%. You can recall from our buyer agency agreement, we charge 3%, so there's a 0.5% commission deficiency. We're going to go ahead and ask the seller for that. Then there are 935 transaction fee. Are there any other additional closing costs that you want covered? So the total closing costs we're going to have covered here are, $14,500. We're going to go ahead and ask for the warranty. Is there anything additional that we need to include in the offer? And so we're going to give you guys tools that you can use that are going to be in your buyer packets and in your toolkit, so you can confidently navigate all of this. The only difference here is it remains to be. I gather that most MLSs, and I know EXP is going to likely have a 1-page addendum to offers that basically lets that agent know that this offer is subject to X compensation for buyer agent. So that's something that there was a good Aaron, I don't know if you saw the it's probably worth sharing. It was Steve Murray on Housing Wire. Did you see that one, Aaron?
Mm-mm.
It was pretty good because it's not a whole bunch of like you can go down a rabbit hole on YouTube on this stuff, but that one was pretty good, and I think that was something that he was contemplating happening.
I'm going to drop it in the chat.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. You just need a process. You just need to be confident around your services. We're going to go through. You guys already have access to, this editable template. So you need to even relook at your buyer consultation. Do you have an actual process, right? Do you have a buyer loyalty agreement? Do you have, do you offer your buyers a cancellation guarantee? That's what we always did. It works awesome. So you guys already have access to all of this, but we'll be rolling you through it as it relates specifically to this change. And the mindset around this, I think, is more important than anything else. And I know you guys cover mindset all the time in this group, so I'm actually not worried about this group. I think you guys are going to take your unfair share of what's out there. Most agents won't be able to navigate this. So most agents that do a lot of buyer business will not be able to navigate this. And so there's a ton of opportunity. But just look to your buyer process. The mindset is that you need to have before you go show them a home, everything needs to be highly coordinated where they're like, holy crap, like I can't believe all of this is available to me as a buyer. Now they're gonna pay for it, where we're gonna ask the seller for it. So there will be times where they don't have money and the seller's not offering a concession, and there's a competing offer that has no agent associated with it, potentially. But that's not different now. It's not that different now, right? So anyway, that's really all I have to cover. Ricardo, you got a question?
I think I did, but I don't know if you answered it or maybe I just forgot it. I think I have a lot of questions, man.
Let's go, Ricardo. Let's go,
bro, because it's just so much. I'm trying to figure out how am I going to negotiate this and how am I going to do this on the listing side. I mean, I've already had the seller do the exact same conversation.
I'm going to interrupt you. So I want you to be really, really clear, Ricardo.
Oh,
this is not different than what you already do. You go in, you do a formal presentation, you tell them what you're going to do, products and services wise. You negotiate with them a professional fee. You're already doing this.
Ricardo, let me hear you kind of articulate it. And I'm normally like Aaron, so I'm normally like, Ricardo, suck it up. this is what you already do. But I want to hear it in your words. What's kind of getting confused in your head?
It's actually not. I had a seller that I just listed on Friday, and he brought this exact same thing up. And so the way I handled it was exactly how Aaron and Jose teach it in terms of like a professional fee. Like the average agent in across country selling about 4 or 5 homes a year. And because inventory is so low, sales are down last year and this year. And so the average agent is probably selling 1 to 2, if they're lucky, 3 homes. So if we have similar competing properties on the market, some are offering 2% to 3%. And this agent knows that this might be their only, 1 of 3 buyers that they're going to be representing this year. They don't have control over what they see, but they definitely have influence over what they choose. And they can definitely push to have their clients compete to make over asking price offers, meaning you're going to get 2, 3, 4% over the asking price. And that may be the case because that's what we're seeing today. So I know it looks like a lot up front. However, on the back end, you're definitely going to make it up. So I guess my question to you, Mr. Seller, is how much do you want to pay, the buyer's agent? And so he agreed to pay a commission, and that kind of just wiped it away.
Right.
So
Hey, are you ready, Ricardo? You ready? Ta-da.
Ta-da. I guess my question,
bro. Ta-da. Like that's
my question is, I have like 3 or 4 listings that are coming soon in a few months. I've already got them like inked. They're going to be on the market soon. And my question, because you mentioned that you have agents already preparing for that, do I have to go in there and change things, or can I just keep them?
You can keep them until the rule change goes into effect in July. It hasn't even gone into effect yet.
It hasn't even been approved by the DOJ. So we've got until July legit, and then we don't even know what the ultimate is going to be. So
Correct.
So anything in process right now, I would just leave it, and then it's really not overall going to change, because in my listing presentation anyway, I had a section that talks about our buyer agents network. So we advertise aggressively to buyer agents from other brokerages and my own brokerage. And the tool we use to do that is a co-broke. It's changed a little bit here. You might have heard some of the news around, buyer agency and how they get paid. Used to be we could just put a number in the MLS. Now we have to do it through seller concessions. So we just have to have a conversation around what you want to offer a buyer agent to encourage them to show your property.
Exactly.
And I would just gloss over it. And then you're like, typically it's 2%, 2.5%. You could offer less. I wouldn't advise it, but it's your decision. It's your money.
Yeah. So people are looking to be led. Our job is to lead them. And how 100%. You present it, if you do it in a matter-of-fact way, they're just gonna be like, oh, okay. And then to add to what Lars is saying, it's like, yeah, we'll go over the options that we have at our disposal in terms of concessions and compensation. So that way you can determine what would work best for you and your family, and whatever you decide, I'll support you 100%.
Yeah. So, and just so that conversation, it's very interesting. He even brought up, well, what if you double end it?
Right.
And so I made a commission structure and I wrote it in if I'm going to double end it. So it's almost the exact same thing.
What? I'm sorry. Say that again. Say it again. What?
It's almost the exact same
Fucking thing. Say it loud and proud. Call me out by name and say it.
It's almost the exact same thing, just a different path. That's all it is. It's almost the exact same thing. And
you know what it's like? It's like we're in the woods and we're like, yo, we're going to the mountain. And instead of going this way, we're just going to go this way, but we're going to the same fucking place.
Yeah. I'm even going to start using like in telling sellers, like the buyer's actually in essence, in most cases, going to pay for it. Can I explain? And they're going to say, how? Well, they're going to be competing. They're probably, in most cases, if they're competing, going to give you over the asking price. So in terms of commission you're paying, they're really financing it, and it's coming right back to the buyers.
Hey, and then you could look at them and smile and say, doesn't that sound great?
Isn't that what you really want? So my question is this, Lars, do I have to disclose it now? Now that I know this, do I have to disclose these things? Like now, on the contracts that I have now?
Because remember, nothing has been approved. What we're doing right now, leaders anticipate, everybody else reacts.
Yep.
Leaders anticipate, everybody else reacts. The reason why you see me springing into action, Lars springing into action, Jose doing live streams and talking about it, is because to go through this imagining that you're not going to have to alter what you're doing is immature and egotistical. Like, you're going to have to augment the way you present. You're going to have to augment, again, you're going to have to be open to providing options and choices, different representation for different forms of compensation. You're going to have to be more open in terms of like negotiating. So I believe you will still get to the end GCI number. It just may be in various different ways.
You know what I think? I'm sorry. You know what I also think is going to happen? I think it's going to be easier for me to get 3.5% all day because it seems so low.
Yeah.
And can I say on the buyer's side, like I think it's going to be better for buyers agents because now they have to be committed to you. And because I have some
100%.
buyers, I have buyers because everybody knows buyers just scroll. They're on Zillow, they're on Redfin, and they're just hopping from agent to agent. I have a couple agents that I've been helping for, or a couple buyers that I've been helping for some time, and I've noticed like, hey, they're talking to other agents. Now they're going to be committed to you. And so
I think there's only one loser in this. A potential loser in this are buyers that don't have the ability to afford an agent. And so
I was thinking, Lars, I'm curious to see your impact on that because I was like, truthfully, and this is my opinion, and I'm aware that if I say this out loud, people will get mad, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm not entirely convinced that that's bad. Do you know that FHA forecloses on 10% of their portfolio every year? Like, to push people into homes who can't afford it is not a good thing. So if people have to save a little bit more money and be a little bit more financial, how many of you guys have sold a home to somebody, if the roof went the next day, they'd be fucking have to get kicked out because they don't have any money to pay for it? Like most of you. That's what leads to, guys, huge booms and huge busts. If you make it a more financially challenging to get into owning a home, I don't believe that that's bad because people will be more financially stable. What is your thoughts on that, Lars?
Yeah, and to Gabby's point, there's only one person wiring in money to closing. There's only one person bringing money to closing in any transaction. So to say necessarily that the seller is paying for any of this, it's kind of, the buyers are the only person bringing money to closing. I think it remains to be seen. I think there's nothing to worry about right now except getting your buyer process in order. And don't overthink this.
Yeah.
Don't overthink this. You have some time. The saving grace here is that we have some time as things unfold. There will be different business models. So there was a comment in here from Griselda about a community that has a bunch of agents that are willing to work for $1,000. Yeah, there are listing firms. There are licensed real estate agents that are willing to list homes in my market for $495.
Right.
There's probably 20 firms like that in my market.
So what I've explained.
So it's not going to be any different. There will be buyer agents that say, hey, listen, you pay me a retainer up front and I'll just, every hour I work with you, I'll just knock off, $50 an hour. And then if we write a contract, I'll get paid $1,000 at closing. So there will be agents that like, I am officially an expert buyer agent. This is my fee structure. And they're okay making $50 an hour. And they'll get paid for every hour they work, right? And it'll be less than 3% of $1 million home.
Yes. And what I was sharing with people, because they're like, oh, it's going to, I'm like, dude, in all of our marketplaces, anywhere we go, somebody can do a flat rate listing for $400 and put an MLS. Mm-hmm. Somebody can list with a discount broker in town, the assist to sell for 1%. Somebody can go with Clever where they take 1%, listing agent, and they pay a massive referral. Like there's always been options and choices, but this is capitalism, guys. Okay. When all of us get on a plane, do we have choices on where we sit? Yeah. You can either sit in the fucking back and there's a fee associated with that. You can get an aisle seat, which is a little bit more. You want some leg room? Guess what? It's a little bit what?
Mm-hmm.
More. Or you can sit up front and guess what? It's more. Do any of us have a problem with that? Do we get pissed off about that? No. You're like, yeah, those people I'm walking by in first class paid extra to get their snacks and drinks while I'm still getting on. I'm fine with that. This is that. So in other words, in the absence, to Lars's point, in the absence of value, the only thing you can compete on is price. None of you care that this is $1,000. I remember when it first came out that this was $1,000. You're like, get the fuck out. Like, that's ridiculous. Do you know now you guys lease these? You don't even own them. You don't care. You know why? Because it's extremely what? Valuable. So what this is doing is it's causing you to become more valuable. And that's not bad. You don't get more because you want more. You get more because you become more. And those who are more valuable in the marketplace, what happens? They get paid more money.
Hey, Aaron, I have Lars, that edible buyer presentation that we can get on Real Estate B School, I think is so powerful, because I know that over the last 13 years, like listing property, if you have a really good and you're confident at your presentation, which also includes the buyer presentation, you can sell anything. And so I can easily get around $1,000 fee in a heartbeat, like by through a presentation, one, and letting them know that my negotiating power is going to get the seller to pay the commission, which you pay nothing.
Hey, and let me ask you a question, Ricardo. When you go on listing presentations, do people regularly say to you, well, the other agent said they would do it for what?
3%.
Less money. And what do? You handle the objection and they list with you. Guys, how is this any different?
It's not.
We've got like four hands up, and I gotta roll in 7 minutes.
Right,
hey, Christopher, what's your question?
Hey, before he rolls, everybody clap your hands up for Lars. Let's go.
Christopher, what's your question?
This might be naive of me, and forgive that, but it is part of our fiduciary responsibility to show a home regardless of how much we get paid. That's always been my impression. And either way, I just feel like if my buyer wants to see this home, I got to show it.
100%. Yeah. So that's why you'll have an agreement in place with your buyer that you charge 3% plus a transaction fee. You're going to seek to get it from the seller. And most of the time, I suspect there will be concessions offered by the seller. In any case, if there's a deficiency, you'll be responsible for the shortfall.
That's all this is. So you're just going to do that up front, Chris, with all of your buyers.
And then Chris, there will be times where the buyers just don't have the money and they want the house. And what I would do in that situation, if I was selling a large volume of real estate, I would say, hey, listen, I've got to get paid something on this deal. It's a $500,000 house. I get it that you guys are tapped. Here's what I need you to do. I'm going to take a haircut on my commission, and you've got to send me 3 referrals in the next 60 days that are legit referrals. And I'm going to call you every freaking week until I get those referrals in hands. Can you commit to doing that? And I have a piece of paper that I have them fill out and they sign it. So anytime I took a haircut ever on commission for any reason, I bought refrigerators, we've all bought the stupid stuff to close a deal. I always had them sign that commission reduction agreement with a commitment to send referrals within a certain amount of time to me. So there will be instances like that, but you'll make up for it. You'll get a couple deals out of it.
That's great. That's really interesting. Okay. Thank you.
Good. Sean, real quick, what you got?
Are we able to advertise in emails that we're offering out compensation to a buyer's agent?
I would imagine so, because it's not in the multiple listing service.
Figure.
Yeah. Mario.
Would you guys say it would be a smart idea to start practicing this now as listing agents? I was just going to put like nothing under compensation right now, and I was going to put send in with your offer what you want to get paid.
Yeah. So, I think that, again, leaders anticipate everybody else reacts. I think that it makes sense to prepare. I would operate mentally from the standpoint that these rules will be accepted.
Okay.
Now, if you want to start I don't think it's necessary to do that in agreements now, but I would role play and practice it. So that way, if, like, say, those rule changes go into place, you hit the ground running, because, again, leaders anticipate everybody else reacts. You don't want to find yourself 4 months from now being like, oh man, I got to go back and how am I going to do this sort of thing? I want to prepare myself now for it.
And then thanks for that. One small second question. What's your thoughts on maybe rolling a payment plan out for those buyers that can't pay you now? You say, hey, I'm going to break you down.
I don't know. I'm not a debt collector, bro. I don't want to fucking do that.
They can put it on a credit card. There are ways you can get paid.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't want a payment plan, bro. Come on, dude. I'm not Walmart. This isn't layaway, bro.
Okay.
Yeah, but
lenders do it. Lenders do it. They roll their fee into the loan, right?
Well, I also think that there will be product innovation. So I think with who knows, because this is moving forward, but I think that there's a high degree of probability that lenders might change rules in terms of up to, but not to exceed a certain amount could get financed in terms of a fee for the buyer. So
and same with VA. I think VA is going to have to look at how they do business as well, because they don't allow certain concessions paid to agents.
So I think with a high,
I think all that'll change.
It'll all change. So this is a fluctuating thing.
Yep.
And I think that again, if I had to bet, I would bet with a high degree of probability there will be product innovation as far as lending is concerned.
For sure.
Thank you.
Gabby, real quick. Let's go.
My question was, with current buyers that we are working with, let's say they're ready to buy, but we've been working with them for 6 months and they don't pull the trigger for another 6 months after the July. Should we be having conversations with our buyers now and getting them signed up? And what do those conversations look like?
Yeah, I think it's just educating, not defending, but just educating. Like here, what I think would be dope, send out an email blast to all of your database. Say the following: I am doing a webinar on buying a home in 2024 with the changes and such. I'd love for you to attend. Here's the Eventbrite link. Drop a link in the chat and get them on a webinar and explain to them, like, if we're working together now, if we buy within the next 4 months before this thing takes place, we don't have to change a thing. If it extends past that, here's what to expect. Here's compensation. And it's either going to be awarded in one of three ways. And here are those ways.
Gabby, I would go one step further. If you're working with buyers now and you're not under agreement with them, I would sit them down and say, hey, we've got to talk about this at some point anyway. And, talk about how I get paid. And the state requires that I go through this stuff with you anyway. So let's meet at the office for 30 minutes ahead of looking at homes on Saturday. And we've got to go, you know what I mean? So I do think you want to get these buyers under agreement with your commission, your transaction fees, so that you can navigate, whatever changes come in 3 months, 4 months, when the changes actually take hold.
Agreed. Great advice. So before we go, again, clap it up for Lars again. Let's go. And the thing that I want him to hear, hang on for 1 second, is the following. When everybody is afraid, it is an immense opportunity to gain market share. Most people mentally are closing down and retreating, whether they admit it or not. And if you can keep calm, because emotions cloud logic, if you can keep calm and carry on, figure out how you're going to deal with it, this is a tremendous opportunity. The number 1 repeated verse in the Bible is do not be afraid. The number 2 repeated verse in the Bible is I am with you. And the number 3 one is God is good. Like, we have to recognize, okay, we come from ancestors who used to live in caves and deal with starvation, deal with disease, deal with the neighboring tribes coming and fucking killing all of them. This is not that. You are not made in the image of something that cowers and shrinks. Okay? Let's go be great. Elite Builders, Coast to Coast. Peace.
Super strong.
Thank you. Thank you.
Come on, team.